I'm live on TMNG5. The president has seen. I'm on the president. Yeah. Viva President Cyril Ramaphosa, viva! Viva! Viva President Cyril Ramaphosa, viva! Viva! Long live the ANC, long live! Long live! Viva the SABC, viva! Viva! Viva Cosatu, viva! Viva! Viva the leagues, viva! Viva! Thank you very much, comrades. Comrades, I think we are ready to start with our induction. And we are delighted to have the President in our midst. I think as a Northern Cape province, we are really blessed with the presence of the President. I think we should give the President a big hand. President, welcome to a rock-solid Northern Cape, a united Northern Cape, and a focused Northern Cape. Let me take this opportunity to welcome our NEC deployees, led by Comrade Lindy, and all NEC members who are present here today, the PEC, led by the Provincial Chairperson, Comrade Zamani Sol, and all our regions who are present here today. All the 5 regions, newly elected regional leadership, RECs that are here. In these 3 days, we are going to have a political school so that all of us know what is expected from us in building this organization, in renewing this organization, but in preparation for our local government elections, but also to make sure that the Northern Cape province is stable and solid. And I think we can confidently say today that the Northern Cape is solid. But we also want to extend a word of welcome to all other comrades who are present here today. So comrades, let me take this opportunity as we open this session to request Comrade Maruping Lekweni, the Deputy Provincial Secretary, just to give us an indication in terms of who are here. Mr. Any apologies, so that we just know. So Comrade Maruping, can you just come to the podium and deal with the issue of attendance? Over to you. All right, thank you. There was just a reminder that we should open the meeting with a prayer from the Deputy Secretary. He's saying, but we should open with a prayer better. So, yeah, no, it's all right, the Debs will do that. Mama, can you come and open the meeting for us with a prayer, please? My faith. Yeah. All the men.
Good morning, everybody, all the comrades. We want to say a special welcome to our president and all the premiers, our comrades, the leagues and the AS, Amen. Amen. We just want to bow our heads and thank this day, that it is a wonderful day, beautiful weather. We must thank God for all of us having woken up this morning. And we especially want to give great thanks for the safe flight that has brought our president safely here amongst us. And we pray that today the Lord must shower us all with blessings and wisdom. We thank everybody for having made time to come and be here with us to make this day a fruitful day. We thank every deliberation that will take place, and we also want to say to God, we give over to His capable hands everything that will happen today. We ask for strength, for power, for safety, protection, and guidance. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Thank you very much, my friend. Comrades, let me, all of us receive the program for the coming 3 days. So, in terms of our program, it's arrival registration, we dealt with that, as well as the welcome remarks, attendance register. The Deputy Secretary will take us to attendance. And then we will be addressed by the Provincial Chairperson, Comrade Sol, political overview by the President of the African National Congress, and then questions and answers. So this is a platform where you will be engaging with the President, raise issues of importance in the organization that you want the President to respond on. After the discussions and the clarity questions and answers, we are going to move to lunch. We have our lunch from 1 o'clock up until 2, and then we will go into session 2. It will be facilitated by the team from the Tree House, handing over to the political education team, then they will facilitate that process, and then we'll move 2 o'clock up until 4. It will be group activities on the history of South Africa and the African National Congress. That will be for 30 minutes. Presentations and discussions on key moments on the history of South Africa and the history of the African National Congress by Comrade David Makura. And then we will adjourn at 6. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll be starting at 9. Organizational theory and practice group activities for 30 minutes, and then we will have the presentations and discussions on ANC core values, principles, and traditions, and organizational structures, including the role of the ANC branch and ANC member. So all of us understand our role as an ANC member, and Comrade Phoebe Potgieter will facilitate that process. And then we will break for lunch. After 2, it will be group activity on governance, policies and governance. That session will be facilitated by Comrade David Makura and Comrade Phoebe. And at 5, there will be an address. I'm not sure for now. Will it be one of the NEC members, and then discussions on questions and answers. And then it's day 3, our last day. It's the PC planning session. So it will be the Provincial Secretary with the PC report from the officials, and the 10th Provincial Conference report, discussions, the rollout on the foundation course, closing remarks by the Provincial Chair, lunch and departure. So that's our program for the 3 days conference. What we want to play with you is for high discipline. And we know that the comrades of the Northern Cape are disciplined. So as you see them today here, comrades will attend up until the last day in these numbers. Comrade Deputy Secretary, can I then hand over to you to take us through.
Thank you very much, Comrade Deputy Chair. Comrades, I'm going to give my attendance register, not a credentials report, please. Just to indicate who's present here. Comrades, from our NEC members, from the 9 we expected, 4 is present, comrades. The PC members, from the 48, that's including the leagues, we're standing at 33 plus the leagues. It's only 2 apologies from the PC members, comrades. It's Comrade Provincial Treasurer, Makato. She's having a bereavement, and Comrade Usos Koloi, also a bereavement. Peace Legaseme, other RCs, because we are all newly elected RCs, have already co-opted, others have not committed. So the numbers won't be consistent in terms of the 5 plus 20, which is 25. You see the numbers are a bit inconsistent. Peace Legaseme, there's 26 expected, 23 have registered comrades. ZFM Gao, 32 expected, 28 have registered. JTG, 30 expected, 20 have registered comrades. Namakwa, 34 expected, 26 have registered. Francis Park region, 30 expected, 29 have registered. Then from the media team, we've invited the 10 media houses, both print electronic. From the 10, 5 is present. We have also received an apology complaint from NEC members. The SG was supposed to have joined this induction in this program, but due to the program of our former SG, we all know that there is a rollout program on the program on Comrade Tumanokwe. There's lectures and even there's repair. So we're told that the SG is leading the program, Comrade, so he won't be able to join us. I'm told Comrade Mutsualeni, also because of her commitments, is not here, and Comrade Zizikoro is out of the country. And those apologies which we got, if I've left any, the convener, Comrade Lindwe Charlie, will assist. Comrades, that's all what we have received. 2 apologies from the PC members, Comrade Deputy Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary. Comrade, just apology. Can I just see a hand? Comrade Venus. Thank you very much, Comrade Njandana. Thank you very much. Comrades, can we adopt the agenda as tabled? the newly elected Regional Secretary Francis Bart. Comrade Buddha. Thank you very much, Secretary. Comrade Sapiseni. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Comrades, we are going to call the Provincial Chair for his political overview. Can we welcome him with a revolutionary song, please?
Viva ANC, viva! Viva! Forward to the Revolutionary Tripartite Alliance, forward! Forward! Viva President Ramaphosa, viva! Viva! Amandla! And Deputy Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity, and let me take this opportunity as well to greet and welcome our President to our beautiful province, Northern Cape, and as well as welcome all the NEC members who are here. I see we've got 3 from the NEC deployees to the Northern Cape. We are very grateful that you are part and parcel of these engagements as a small and growing province. We always rely on the support and guidance of our NEC deployees. For the few months that they've been deployed to the province, they've not failed in that task. Thank you very much for that. And I highly appreciate your active involvement in the political program of the ANC. Let me also greet the newly elected REC members. Where's the REC of John Taulo Heights? I don't see them. I get worried when I don't see them. Oh, there's the REC. And where's the REC of Peaks Likasene? I get nervous when I don't see them. Oh, there's the REC and the REC of Francis Bar. I get more energy when I see this REC. And the REC of ZFM. It's a noisy REC. And the REC of Namakwa. There's the REC of Namakwa. And the REC of Namakwa is like soldiers coming from a battle. Those communities are like soldiers coming from a battle. Who have managed to record victory on behalf of all of us. The victory looks small, but it's very significant. So can we give our comrades from Namakwa a nice round of applause? We just recorded a very significant victory in Namakwa, which puts us very close to be in charge of Namakwa municipality. In terms of the Northern Cape standards, Namakwa municipality is a very big municipality. The population there is about 60,000 people who are staying there. So it's big. It's almost 12 times bigger than the municipality where I come from. So in terms of our standards, winning back Namakwa is not a small feat. It's a major achievement. So I did not hear that round of applause for this. It did us very proud. And yesterday, whilst we were busy preparing this venue for this event, The Provincial Secretary arrived straight from Namakwa with the Deputy Provincial Secretary, with a team of comrades that were in Namakwa. They left Namakwa, drove about 820 kilometers and came straight to the venue to make sure that we are ready for this event this morning. So when they arrived here, they were all complaining, hey, they're tired, because they did not sleep the night before. They have to wait for the results that came up around 1 o'clock, and early hours of the morning they had to drive 8-hour trip back to Kimberley. Can we give our secretariat, which is the engine of the movement, a nice round of applause for them? But when they arrived here, I told them that there's other battles that we still have to fight. We've got the by-elections in Okip. We must go back to Namakwa. And we've got another by-election in Sutherland. Both by-elections are on the 28th of this month. So within the next 2 weeks, there's 2 critical by-elections that will take place in Namakwa. And the Okip by-elections will actually put us in a position, if we win that by-election, to be in charge of Namakwa municipality. So this was a small but very significant victory for the African National Congress in Namakwa. Comrades, this is the biggest induction I've ever attended. You've got the PEC here, newly elected PEC, and you've got the 5 RECs. It's the biggest induction I've ever attended. I've never attended such a big induction. But whilst I was seated looking at the comrades that have attended here, I realized that there is a need that we should continue with this practice towards the 2026 local government elections. Out of here, we will continue to convene in this fashion. And we are going to call ourselves the War Council for 2026 local government elections. And I already have proposed dates which the Secretariat will have to look into the practicality of implementations thereof. 26, our next meeting, 26th and 27th of July. The other meeting, 24 to 25 of October. Because we are heading for a titanic battle with the 2026 local government elections. So, from here we are going to reconvene ourselves in this fashion as a Northern Cape War Council for 2026 local government elections. And in the next War Council meetings, we'll be expecting reports from the regions in the presence of the entire REC to tell us what the region is doing in order to turn the tide in favor of the African National Congress in 2026 local government elections. And we will leave here with a clear programmatic tasks of what must happen almost each and every day as we build momentum towards 2026 local government elections. I don't think we should just abandon this good practice with induction, but let's use it to strengthen coordination of the work of the ANC in the province, and let's use it to create a platform for regions to learn from each other. So, Chair, there are basically 3 things that I would like to highlight for this augmented induction session. And I want also to welcome the principal of our school, Comrade David Makura. I think this is your 2nd visit as the principal, or 3rd visit now. It could be 2nd or 3rd. Late last year you were here, and you are here again. Can we give him a nice round of applause as well for his presence together with the team from Lutuli House. The first issue which I want to highlight is the importance of an induction session. This is what we call this a compulsory induction. Hence, the decision was that we are not going to accept any apologies, except for those exceptional cases. An induction is important to ensure that at a minimum level, we are armed with basic understanding of how the organization functions. We've got a basic understanding of policy directions and the history of the organization. That is the reason why we've got a compulsory induction, is to arm us. But this is at a minimum level. It's a rudimentary level. Does not start and end. On how the organization functions, the policy direction, and the history of the organization. So what is important for us to understand is that we are a national liberation movement, a disciplined force of the left, and also we call ourselves an anti-imperialist movement with a historic mission to implement the NDR. So a proper understanding of this characterization of the organization is very important for a leader of an ANC. Simple language, a leader should be able to explain what with a disciplined force of the left. What do we mean when we say we're an anti-imperialist movement? And what do we mean when we say we still characterize ourselves as a liberation movement? With simple language. That's what, as leaders, we should be able to articulate. So a proper understanding of what this characterization means and the burden it puts on leaders is very critical. Because if you look at this characterization, we actually give ourselves a character of a revolutionary movement. That's what we are. What are the burden of leadership that comes with serving in structures of a revolutionary movement? Because it can't be the same as a burden of leadership that comes with serving in an ordinary political party. This is a revolutionary movement. So no one of us have the right to lead the organization from a position of not knowing. There's not even a single one of us who's got that right. As we are seated here as REC members, as PEC members, you don't have a right to lead the organization from a position of not knowing. So there's a bare minimum that you must know about the organization in order for you to lead the organization effectively as a leader. So you don't have a right not to know and to lead the organization from a position of not knowing. Because ignorance in politics is a hell of a disadvantage. This induction, comrades, also seeks to help us to be effective leaders that avoid the three pitfalls. There's three pitfalls that we need to avoid, and one of those pitfalls is tailism. That's a pitfall that we have to avoid, where we fail in our responsibility to lead initiatives, but we are always seen as tailing initiative, and as well as the spirit of South African people. So that's one of the pitfalls we have to avoid, and this induction must assist us with. The induction must also assist us not to be victims of adventurism, taking of reckless decisions that puts the organization at risk. But also, this induction must help us not to be victims of populism. You look at yourself and think you are more important than the structure you serve in. That's what populism means. in our organization, where individuals, they look at themselves, have this extraordinary sense of magnanimity and think that this REC is here to serve you. You are not here to be part and parcel of the collective to serve the people of the region or the province. So these are the three pitfalls that we have to avoid, and we should be conscious about when we live here. The first is tailism, and the second is adventurism, and the third is populism. And these three pitfalls can lead to the defeat of the revolution if we are not careful about it. Also, comrades, this induction is here to assist us to build mutual confidence. You can't serve in a collective and you don't trust each other. If there's no trust, there is no collective. If Deshi lives here and he goes to Namako, I should not send comrades to go and look what Deshi is doing there. Phone my forces in Namako. Hey comrades, Deshi is on his way to Namako. Please keep an eye on him. And they will tell me, no, Deshi is at Wimby now. From Wimby is going to Bersa to attend a meeting. And these are the comrades that are in this meeting in Bersa. So then if that happens, then there is no mutual confidence. In the absence of mutual confidence, there is no collective leadership. We are not leading as a collective. So this induction is to assist us to build mutual confidence. As I'm standing here, I should know that Bentley, at a minimum level, knows what the organization expects of him. And I should have confidence in the fact that wherever he goes, he will do what the organization expects on him. I don't have to set up police to look after him. So the important part of an induction is to build that mutual confidence. You must live out of this induction as a better REC, better organized, we change attitude towards each other. Possibly you are coming from two different slates. There were factional battles before the regional conference, but when you live here, you live as one solid REC. You don't look at each other from what happened before or during the regional conference. But also, comrades, what is very much important is the fact that the induction is to assist us to take right decisions. That's why the induction is to assist us, because we serve in structures. One of the organizational properties of the organization of the ANC is structures. If you serve in a structure, you become a leader. And the primary responsibility of structures is to produce decisions. ANC structures must take decisions. The NEC must take decisions, provinces, all structures must take decisions, and sometimes difficult decisions, because that's the reason why structures exist, is to take decisions. And those who serve in those structures are leaders. And the decisions that we take should be right decisions. That's the kind of decisions we should take. It should be right decisions. We should not take decisions driven by some triumphalist instinct. So right decisions in the movement are decisions which are grounded. These decisions are grounded in the policy and the history of the organization and articulate our best understanding of what the organization stands for. So when the PEC sits to take decisions, it should be grounded decisions. If you're an ANC member, you look at the decision which the PEC took. You should say, but this is a decision taken by an ANC. Not a decision that is not grounded in our policies, that is not grounded in our history. But also these decisions should be contextual. They must respond to the physical and economic circumstances that shapes people's lives, what we call as material conditions, and must limit risks to the organization. So when we take decisions, we don't put oogklappe soos 'n donkey. We should be contextual, look at the possible risks that decisions are posing to the stability of the organization, to the growth, dynamism and vibrancy of the organization. We are contextual. What's the implications on these decisions on the lives of the people? You want to increase VAT by 2%, you need to be contextual. What's the possible implication of this decision on the livelihoods of ordinary South Africans? In a country where about 47% of households are poor households. We need to be contextual, open ourselves up so that we can take decisions that are informed. If we take decisions which are not contextual, we're going to take decisions that risk the organization, that puts the organization at risk. But the third feature of our decisions, comrades, is that our decisions should be predictable. We can't take decisions and surprise people every time we take decisions. And people ask themselves, but I don't believe that the ANC I'm a member of can take such a decision. We can't every time we meet as a PC or as an REC, we throw some surprise to the people of the Northern Cape. So the decisions that we take should be anticipated. When we communicate our decisions, people should say, we expected this decision. That's what people should say. We expected this decision. So when we take wrong decisions, we always get punished. The voters punish us every time we take decisions which are not grounded, which are not contextual, which are not predictable. Voters, they punish us. So the reason why we've got an induction is to assist us to take right decisions. And we got punished for such decisions. 8 months before the end of his term, the former President Thabo Mbeki was removed. We got severely punished by the electorate for that. Severely punished. Up until today, we are still lingering and suffering from the consequences of that decision. 8 months before he finished his term, for us to manage a proper transition. We are still bleeding today from a wrong decision which was taken. Just 14 months before JZ finished his term, we removed him. Wrong decision again. And we are still suffering the consequences of that decision up until today. And because of that decision which was taken by national and the posture of the national leadership, provinces accepted it that as soon as you go to conference and the premier is not elected into the PEC, the premier must be removed. Regions did the same. If you go to a regional conference and the district mayor is not in the REC, the district mayor must go. At the branch level, if you go to a BJA, branch biannual general meeting, the branch ward councillor, the ward councillor is not elected into the PEC, that ward councillor will have the toughest time of his life. Because the branch chairperson already projects himself as a ward councillor. And we get punished because of the wrong decisions that we take. So what we'll have to do, and what this induction must help us, is to ensure that we take right decisions, progressive decisions that take the movement forward and not individuals forward. So provinces copied what national is doing. We are going to the 2027 national conference. And I got it through the grapevines that the president is not going to contest. So the leadership that comes in 2027 will be tempted to remove him as well, because we are removing all our leaders after national conferences. They will be tempted to do that, because now this thing has became an ingrained practice. It's the tradition in the movement. And every time we do that, we get badly punished. Because KwaZulu-Natal, newly elected PEC came in, they removed the premier. We set with the worst results there, post-1994. Gauteng, Makura is here. We are sitting with the worst results in Gauteng, post-1994. We get punished. So, comrades, the most important thing for the existence of a structure is for us to take right decisions. Right decisions. Decisions that are politically informed, grounded. Contextual, that looks at the possible implications and the risks that this decision poses. And decisions which are predictable. We can't continue to surprise South Africans with the kind of decisions that we take. We had that opportunity to do that, but it's over now. But also, what is important for this induction is to enable us to build collective agency as the PEC, which is our ability as a group of individuals to act towards a common goal. That's what we need. It's a collective agency of these structures. Each and every one of us who's serving in these structures, we've got different capabilities. We've got Kenny in the PEC, who can deconstruct historical materialism, dialectical materialism. He can take you deep into Marxism and Leninism. We've got our provincial secretary, a historian of note. We've got different gifts and talents. But the structure should become the melting pot of those different gifts and talents. There are others who won't be able to match it. I won't be able to match Kenny on the dialectics. I won't be able to match the provincial secretary on the history, modern history. I see he always starts around the 20th century. He's got difficulties of going beyond that. But I won't match him. There's no way I can match him. If Mbeki could not match him, who's Amani to try and match him? The former president of Mbeki could not match him. In a debate they had, I was sitting there listening, and he was telling the former president that his father was part and parcel of the Lubanza conference in 1962. Yes, no, your father was chairing that conference. Tawa said, no, that's not true. He said, no, it's true. Your father was chairing that conference. So, how do I match this? So we've got different attributes, different skills, strengths, and weaknesses. But the structure should be an empowering body. You serve in the PEC for the next 4 years. When you leave, people must say, but we see a different individual. Isn't it? People must say, but here we see a different individual. This comrade is not what he was 3 years back, or what he was 4 years back before he served in the PEC. So the structure is a melting pot. And we've got different talents. There's no way I can match Eunice Bojosi on the ground. Comrades, I sit back and always ask myself, Jesus, where does Eunice get so much energy? I will never match Eunice Bojosi. We came here yesterday. We left here around 10 o'clock. Eunice, we left Eunice here yesterday. Yes, we left Eunice Bojosi here yesterday. And we asked myself, what? And she was just coming from Nama. She does not have a driver, she drives herself. And I was like, Eunice, such energy. No, that's who I am. So comrades must just remain who they are. That's what you want. Add your skill, add your energy, add your talent into this melting pot called a structure to make it function better. So that's the call that we are here to make. But I think what is important as well for me to raise is that this is the first induction of a PEC that commands less than 50% of the electoral support in the province. It's for the first time that there's an induction here of a structure that commands less than 50%. In 1994, we got 49%, but we managed to correct that in 1996, when we got 56%. So the PEC that was inducted in 1998, it has 56% of the electoral support. So it's for the first time that we are sitting here. And 2024 election showed us power is not a permanent feature. The 2024 May election outcomes were the worst in the province. Record-breaking losses for the ANC. Those outcomes will be etched into history as the most definitive shift in the political landscape and trajectory of the country and the province. Comrade President, in the province, we lost 3 regions, 3 districts. We lost Namakwa, 42%. We lost ZF Ngau, 47%. We lost Francis Bar, where we are now, 48%. And we lost this city. We are standing here at 45%. What this means is that when we invite you after the local government elections, if we don't change this thing, the mayor here will be a DA. That's what it means. We only managed to win 2 regions, which is Pixley, 52, and John Daulo-Haitsi, were 57%. But I need to mention it here, Comrade President, we got 49.3%. 2,400 votes away from 50%. 2,400 votes away from 50%. After the elections, many in the province are going through an internal logical conflict, which is what we call as cognitive dissonance. Because the outcomes went against what we have been taught and internalized, the electoral invincibility of the ANC. That's what we've been taught, and we've just internalized this thing that the ANC cannot be defeated in elections. So what we need as we are gathered here, we need cognitive equilibrium, which means that we must acknowledge that what we came to believe as electoral invincibility of the ANC is but just a myth. Electoral invincibility of the ANC is just a myth. We need to accept it. So the point of departure of this newly elected PEC and RECs is that we have lost the last elections. That's what we should accept. So I had lengthy discussions with one of my Chinese friends on the outcomes of the elections. And I was in China with Makura, and I was also in China with Comrade Lindy. When I was the provincial secretary, Comrade Fipi, I never missed a single trip to China. So the SG knew if there's an NEC member who can't attend, he phones me Zamani because I asked. So this Chinese friend of mine said, when we were discussing, me agonizing about the fact that we've lost the elections. So he said to me, but you know what, Zamani? This election's outcome, it's a defeat with elements of victory. Okay. But yes, you know Chinese with a flattery language. Their language is very flattering. So he says to me, you phoned to inform me that you guys have lost elections. And I said, yes. He said, but you are still the premier. Because elections are about that. Who will become the premier? That's what the elections are about. Yes. He says you still have your executive, ANC executive. Yes. He said then it is a defeat in terms of 49, but there's elements of victory because the ANC is still governing the province. So he took me to national. He says, you said national look has got 43 years, and you still have Cyril as the president. Yes. You still have Paul as the deputy president. Yes. The sense I'm getting is that you guys, 72% of ministers and deputy ministers is still ANC. Yes. He says, that's victory. He said, that's victory. So then he says, instead of agonizing about the 49% and the 40%, the most important question you should be asking yourself, what are you doing with this victory within a defeat? What are we going to do with this victory in a defeat? That's what he was asking me. He says, no, leave the 49%. You are governing the country, you are governing the province. What are you doing with that? So he calls it a defeat with elements, with significant elements of victory. So comrades, the acceptance that we've lost the 2024 election should re-inject vigor in our politics. We can't sit there. Basically, it's time for us to go to war. We should re-inject vigor in our politics. This vigor must come with fresh energy, fresh ways of thinking, fresh ways of doing things, fresh ways of relating to our people, a new attitude towards our organization, a new attitude towards government. We need new attitude towards how we build the organization. So people wrote extensively about the actual causes of the electoral decline of the ANC. I've read tons of journals. They were dominating the space on this subject matter. The latest installment of these extensive writings were the 10 theses presented by Comrade Joel Netitensi at our last NEC last year, and also we tasked the Secretary General and his team to present a report, which was a diagnostic report, which he presented last year towards the end of the year to the NEC. Whilst all these reports are correct on the analysis of the actual causes of the decline, I think there is a fundamental thing that these reports failed to identify. And that fundamental thing is the political posture of the ANC post-1999 in relation to the theory and practice of the South African Revolution. I think all the reports, all the journals, all the articles that I've been reading, they miss this very critical issue. Let me explain this. To eradicate colonialism of a special type, we adopted the National Democratic Revolution as the minimum program to destroy the multidimensional nature of white national oppression. You know, it was multidimensional. It was racial, political, social, gender, cultural, and economic. It is common knowledge that revolutions are prosecuted by social forces that stand to gain the most from the victory sought. These forces are called motive forces and are specific to particular revolutions, and they are produced by specific conditions. The motive forces for the NDR are black people in general and Africans in particular. The ANC before 1994 mobilized these motive forces into people's power, what we call this people's power. And this led to a duality of power in South Africa, which is people's power versus state power. The people's power was in the hands of progressive forces. And as the leader of those progressive forces, it was the African National Congress. So before 1994, we had, as the ANC, people's power that we are responsible for. The state power was in the hands of the white minority. We We knew in the ANC that it was through people's power that we could overthrow the racist white regime. Thus, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and the 80s marked a period of heightened social and mass mobilization. Even when the ANC and other liberation movements were banned in 1960, the apartheid regime could not ban political activism of the oppressed black majority. While the liberation movements were banned, people's power could not be banned because its organization, its diffusion, it could not be banned. The people's power won the struggle over the apartheid state. Hence, we guardedly characterized the democratic breakthrough in 1994 as capturing the beachhead on our way to the final victory of the NDR. What this means, comrades, is that in 1994, we got one foot on the shore of a whole territory still to be conquered. Because we still had a territory to conquer, we continue to call ourselves a liberation movement. That is the reason why we say only for the purpose of elections, we call ourselves a political party. Just to register with the IEC, we say we're a political party. But for the purpose of the existence of the ANC, we still call ourselves a liberation movement because there's a territory that we still have to conquer in order to improve and reverse the legacy of apartheid colonialism. What this means is that we wanted to use our legality to expand and deepen the people's power to capture the new and unfamiliar terrain. Instead, what we did was to incrementally substitute people's power with state power. That's the mistake that we've committed. And we are paying the price of that mistake up until today. Substitution of people's power with state power. The epicenter of the struggle got institutionalized in the state. We left a void in the political space. As a result, our political language changed. We came with understandings of the relationship of the revolutionary movement, new understandings of the relationship of the revolutionary movement and the state. We call the ANC and not the people's power as a strategic political set. How we relate to the state, we call ourselves a strategic political set. All these new understandings are as a result of marginalization of our motive forces, which led to the abandonment of grassroots activism. I want any regional secretary to tell me of a single branch in your region that has got campaigning capacity. Give me the name of that branch, which can campaign, which can put up a campaign program and execute a campaign. Either it's HIV campaign, or it's campaign for the improvement of services by municipalities, campaign against crime. I want you just to give me one branch. We don't have such branch. Because we've substituted people's power with state power. As soon as a BEC gets elected, the first thing they have to come and ask, they want the agenda of the municipality. Hey, masifumane agenda ka masipala izane budget apa sifuna ubona budget. And they've not even asked a simple question: what campaigns are we going to execute in this branch that concerns the livelihood of the people here in the branch? They want the mayor here. The first piece in the mayor must come here. You want the mayor here. The councillors must come here. Comrades, what's the budget? And what's the procurement budget? Which projects are you going to implement? Because we've substituted people's power with state power. And this state power, comrades, which is the epicenter of our political activism, is corrupt. That's what state power is. It's corrupt. Hence, almost every conference, state leadership must be changed on the matter of triumphalism, even from a BGM. I've reflected on the issue of the decisions that we take that impacted on where we are today. So what we need to do is to recover the lost ground, and that would require us going back to basics and reasserting people's power by a deliberate program to instill revolutionary political consciousness in members and leaders. Without the revolutionary political consciousness, you'll have branch leaders who are political hustlers. You'll have REC members who are political hustlers, even PEC members who are political hustlers, because we lack the revolutionary political consciousness on what your election means to ordinary people. The only reason for your existence here, if you lack revolutionary political consciousness, is to contest state power. That would be the only reason. You come here to look at how do you relate to state power. That is the reason why even today when you appoint MECs, the senior MEC becomes the MEC with a big budget, not the MEC with a strategic position that he occupies. If you do a cabinet reshuffling, you remove an MEC from a department with a budget which is 7 billion rand to a budget which is 3 billion rand. People don't look at the strategic nature of the position. They look at it as a demotion because we are political hustlers. We are political hustlers. Our contestation is about state resources. It's about state power. Our contestation, our mere existence, is not to mobilize people's power. And that should be our primary preoccupation. That should be our primary task on how do we mobilize a critical mass of South Africans behind our program of transformation. That's our task. That's how we defeated the apartheid regime. By creating a duality of power, people's power that we were completely in control of, and the apartheid regime was in charge of the state power. So our responsibility, if we want to reverse this, is to mobilize for people's power. As I close, Comrade Chair, the call out of this induction should be all for unity. That should be our call as we live here. Our simple call is all for unity. Our thoughts for unity, our articulation for unity, our conduct should be for unity. All for unity. Amandla.
Comrades, can we stop the in and out, please? Can we stop the in and out?
Why would regional
Comrades,
have to happen?
regional secretaries.
Yeah.
sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
inzima lendlela, mina leba, siyakaba,
siso sabala,
inzima lendlela, mina leba, siyakaba,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala,
hey tata tele, 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 inzima lendlela, mina leba, siyakaba, inzima lendlela, mina leba, siyakaba, siso sabala,
siso sabala,
siso sabala, Oserele urata kaupela, etamaya newena, weremolo molo. Oserele urata kaupela, etamaya newena, weremolo molo.
Mandla! Viva ANC, viva! Viva Kosatu, viva! Viva Sanko, viva! Viva SACP, viva! Amandla! Malbongwe! Igama lamakhosikazi! Roar, young lions, roar! Mandla!
Do we still have young lions here?
Yes, we do. I can see some young lions all around here. Comrade Chairperson of our province here in the Northern Cape, Comrade Zamani Saul, who says that comrades must remain where they are and do what they do best. Now, Comrade Zamani has a PhD. You know, when he was doing his PhD, he kept briefing me what he was writing about. I was very interested. So he's a doctor, Dr. Zamani Saul. He doesn't know, so he must stay where he is. He doesn't know that I was a visiting professor in the United States for a while. So you must know that. But you know, when I tell my children that I was a visiting professor, they say, "Hi, Dad, you could never have been a professor." But I was a visiting professor for just 1 week. You know how Americans are. They give you some position, high-level position, just for a day or a week. Got and found a comrade national chairperson who was a mayor for 3 hours. Members of the PEC of our province here, convener of the NEC, deployees, Comrade Lindiwe Njali, and of course, members of the NEC who are here present, and all of you leaders of our various structures, our regions, and our branches, and leaders of the ANC Women's League, ANC Youth League, ANC MKLWV, our veterans and stalwarts who are here present. Comrades, it's a real honor to be with you and also to be with you at your induction course or process when you will be hearing later from the principal of our political education school. It's a joy for me to be here also because it's a great remembrance. When I heard about comrades from Namakwa and hearing that there are about 60,000 people in Namakwa, I almost said, you must count me in as well, because I used to spend a lot of time there organizing mine workers in Kleinsie, Koina, so Keep and Springbok. I used to spend a lot of time there, and they would often invite me after organizing and all that, the mine workers there, they would say, "Kom, laat ons gaan by die nightclub." So they used to love lots of night clubbing there. I used to go but sit outside. Let me, comrades, from the onset, congratulate the chairperson and the provincial officials, and indeed members of the PEC, on your election. Comrade Lindiwe Njali was briefing me as NEC convener that you held a most peaceful, well-organized provincial conference. Congratulations. And I'm told that even your other conferences, regional conference, there was no drama, there was no bottles flying around, and there was no festival of chairs or anything like that. So we commend you, and may we wish that what you've experienced here continues to be the general practice in the ANC, because what you went through, this is what the ANC should be all about. Having well-organized conferences and also being able to spend time, a great deal of time in commissions, discussing policy, discussing the politics of our movement, but also discussing where our country should be going to and where your province should be going to. So we welcome that. And this is also a real great marker on your part on where we should be going. You've been able to handle the issue of succession properly, electing leaders who are tried and tested. So that we commend you for. You were also able, and this is acknowledged in the declaration of your provincial conference, that our movement, this province, and our country finds itself in a decisive moment. That's what you said as you discussed the full politics of our country and of our movement. And indeed, comrades, our movement, our country, finds itself at a decisive moment. But it's not only our country, it's the world itself is at what you could call an inflection point, and the ANC itself must be sober-minded and must have clarity of purpose, and in doing so, precisely what Comrade Zamani was talking about. As we take decisions, we must take decisions taking into account the context and the environment in which we are operating. Take all the issues that bear on the circumstances and the environment into account as we take decisions. And we must therefore have clarity of purpose, and in doing so show unity in action to the moment that confronts us. In this year we are commemorating, and we must put this front of mind, we are commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. We must, as a movement, as members and as leaders, rededicate ourselves to achieving the vision of the Freedom Charter and also the pursuit of the National Democratic Revolution. This year we are also going to have a number of other manifestations. One of those is going to be holding a national dialogue, the first meeting of the national dialogue, where we will be bringing South Africans together to sit down and discuss about the future of our country, where we are headed as a country, as we do a proper analysis, not only of the current conjuncture, but of our past, our current conjuncture, and of the future. Another major manifestation is that we are president of the G20. We are a leader in the discourse of discussions and policy of the world, as the G20 is the fulcrum of policy making that has an impact of what happens in the world moving forward. So we are the president. Each one of you is a president. Each of our provinces is a president, and there will be some event here as well of the G20 130 meetings. So in the course of all this, we are in the midst of a major manifestation of the G20 process, which has an overriding impact in a number of ways on what happens from a policy point of view and from a practical point of view in many parts of the world. So therefore, it gives us an opportunity as a country, but more importantly as the continent, in shaping policy directions, shaping what needs to happen in the world. So we have this opportunity. But guided by the vision of the Freedom Charter, the goal of the NDR is to, as we recall, transform our country into a national democratic society by eradicating all manifestations of apartheid, colonial and patriarchal power relations. And sometimes we forget the patriarchal power relations, and we just focus on apartheid, colonialism, and even as we talk about non-sexism in our key principles, we forget about the patriarchal power relations. And this is also a moment that we need to mesh what Comrade Zamani was saying in terms of understanding the political dynamics in our own country, about what that moment on the 27th of April 1994 meant. And sometimes we make the mistake of believing that that was Victory Day, that was Total Liberation Day, and forgetting that that just gave us a beachhead. And Comrade Zamani interprets it so well that it actually enabled us to put a foot on the beach, because for all these 82 years, the African National Congress had been waging, and liberation movements had been waging a struggle to dislodge colonialism and apartheid power from its seat so that we can transform our country. But that did not represent a victory. And the 30 years that have ensued have been years of continuing with the struggle to finally achieve the objectives of the NDR, which are yet to be achieved, which is the National Democratic Society. A National Democratic Society which will have rid our country of the vestiges of apartheid, vestiges of racism, vestiges of patriarchy in our country. So we are involved in a continuing struggle. And the NDR is defined as such precisely because it seeks to achieve 4 objectives. And it's important, and this being an induction process, and Comrade Makura and Comrade Phoebe will focus more intensely and deeply on what all this means. It is us as the leaders who can never be found to fall foul of having no knowledge, who can never be found to be wanting when it comes to knowledge. I digress for a minute. Our country is seeking to finalize, for instance, a budget. And the saga that we've gone through in trying to finalize a budget has represented what I would call a dark cloud that has descended on our country. But I've often said we need to look below that cloud and see whether there is a silver lining that can help us to handle these matters better forward. And that silver lining is to enable us as leaders, as South Africans as well, to immerse ourselves, to get us to delve into understanding our national budget, to get us into fully understanding our provincial budget, and for those in local government to get us to understand the full mechanics of our local municipality budgets. And that is what I see as a silver lining, that out of this we have learned a lot, and therefore we need to move to the level that Comrade Zamani was talking about, that we should never have lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. Because today, if I were to ask a simple question amongst all of us, what is the national budget of our country? Many of us will not know. If I were to ask a simple question, what constitutes the highest expenditure in the budget? Many of us will not know. If I were to ask what is our revenue, what is our revenue collection as a nation? What was it last year? What is it going to be? Many of us will not know. So that is where, as leaders, we need to immerse ourselves in knowledge. And of course, apartheid education did not serve us well, because we needed, our education system needed to arm us with just the basic mechanics of knowing precisely the construction of our national budget. But many of us don't know. And without being disrespectful to anyone, even in those levels, structures that need to deal with it, you'll find that many don't know. So therefore, this is the moment where, as leaders, we need to immerse ourselves. And the beauty is, comrades, we now have a political education department or system that really works. That really works. With Comrade Makura and them dedicating full time. And of course, Comrade Zamani says he was being pushed out as premier and all that. Those are other politics. But even as he was migrating out of that position, I sat down with Comrade Makura and we talked about his vision, what he wants to do, where he wants to go. And we both narrowed it down to political education. Now, if I boast of having been a professor for a week, this should be the real ANC professor. He should be the real ANC professor, because our education system seriously is taking off. And it is part of this renewal, the renewal that many of our conferences have always spoken about, that we need to renew the ANC. I must make sure I don't talk for too long, because you want to ask questions. I get quite animated myself. So the NDR is really about building a new nation with a new national identity as an African country which is underpinned by non-racialism, by non-sexism, having departed from a patriarchal culture. And it should be about unity in our diversity. The beauty that we are as South Africa, diverse in many, many ways, and none of us ever having to want to run away to another country for fictional reasons that we are being persecuted. We are united in diversity, and none of us should ever feel that they have lost courage, that they've now become cowards and want to run. Ons bly hier, ons is Suid-Afrikaners, en ons gaan hier bly, and we will tackle our problems as we move more and more towards that national democratic society. Secondly, what we seek to do with the NDR is to build a democratic state that is built or based on the will of the people, without regard to race, gender, belief, language, ethnicity, and geographic location, where we become one nation. Thirdly, building a society based on the best human values, where we restore the dignity and guarantee the freedoms and the human rights of all the people, and moving towards improving the life or the quality of life of all. And fourthly, building, and this is the NDR. You know, I often get quite surprised when even well-informed and educated people accuse us. They say, we always talk about this NDR, National Democratic Revolution. They accuse us of it without understanding what the full content of what the NDR is. And even those who criticize us don't understand that the NDR actually is what they should use as a defense for themselves if they regard themselves as threatened or so-called minorities or what have you. And we want to build a transformed and inclusive as well as a thriving economy that offers opportunities and decent livelihoods to all people, including the restoration of the birthright of all South Africans to what? To the resources of our country, to the land, yes, to opportunities, to finance, to skills, and a whole lot of other resources. Now, the success, comrades, of this vision is objectively in the best interests of all South Africans. And we are the people, you as the leadership seated here, we are the people who must spread this message. Comrade Mac Maharaj once said to me, you know, President, I have asked a simple question, even to some NEC members, what the NDR is. And he said, I was shocked to find that even some people who are in the leadership at the top level of the ANC do not know or understand what the National Democratic Revolution is. I say this advisedly, comrades, and it is important that it should be stated at our induction here that we are supposed to be the voice, the messengers of clearly articulating what this movement that you are part of is all about. And this movement has, from 1912, been seeking to ensure that we establish a national democratic society. And in 1994, we just put our foot on the shore. And therefore, we still have a lot of work to do, and we need to understand the full content of what our vision or our movement's vision is. Now, as set out in our iconic document, Through the Eye of the Needle, to become a leader of the ANC is neither an entitlement, nor should it be an easy process attached merely to status. Precisely what Comrade Zamani was also talking about. To be a leader of the ANC is an immeasurable honor. So all of you seated here as leaders of our movement, here at the provincial level, at the regional level, it's an immeasurable honor. An honor that has been handed down to us from generation to generation to generation. We have been honored, and we've been given a very rare opportunity that many people never ever get in their lives. What must inform all of us as leaders of the ANC is a desire and a total commitment to serve the people. When you are elected as a leader, we should understand that we have not been elected for ourselves, that we are now in a position to have power, or we are now in a position to have a big budget, to control a budget. I've often heard comrades saying, and you know, it's that whole tendency, like it's when you are seated at a restaurant and you are eating, you always look at what is your neighbor eating? You look around. So comrades sometimes, when they are put in positions, they start boasting. I have a budget. Lo agana budget. And when somebody is moved, you can best go and execute tasks in another department, they immediately become so depressed when they find that there is not a big budget for that function, and they think it's a demotion. And that is born out of regarding the positions that and the roles that we are given as positions of influence, positions of power, and positions where we can advance our own personal interests. And this is what we need to rid our movement of. A good example is Comrade Makura. Comrade Makura, Premier, Chairperson, Premier of, if you like, the richest province in the country, and the most populous province in the country, and Chairperson of Gauteng. Who doesn't want to be Chairperson of Gauteng? And the biggest budget. And the biggest budget. And he's now appointed head of the ANC's political education. And humbly, with great humility, takes it in his stride. And he says, this is the function that the ANC has given me. I am going to throw my soul, my everything, resources and energy into this. And That is why our political education has come alive. Has come alive because of dedication. So comrades, you know, the older comrades, our forebears, you know, when Comrade O.R. Tambo was told to leave the country, it's not that he wanted to leave. He was a lawyer. But he was just given an instruction, leave. And go and ensure that you build the ANC outside. It was the most dangerous thing to do because he could have been pursued. He didn't even know where he was going to sleep. He didn't even know where he was going to get food or whatever. But he left because he was being given a task and a function by the African National Congress. Now, as leaders, that is what we need to accept. That where we are deployed is where we are going to excel and do the best that we can. So in the end, comrades, the leaders of the ANC must do everything out of commitment to serve our people. And together, we must do this because those who came before us have a track record that we need to follow. We also undertake this important work of leading the ANC and in government as well, nationally and in the Northern Cape, following, for instance, the elections that we had in 2024. And Comrade Zamani has given a good interpretation of how other people see that. Yes, we suffered a major electoral setback. That we accept. But out of that, as his Chinese friend has said to him, you know, he also gets lessons from Chinese friends. And I would describe it in this way, Comrade Zamani. Yes, much as it was a setback, embedded in there is a victory. And we should make sure that we draw victory from the jaws of that defeat. And we have been able to do so. And in many ways, that's exactly what we have done. And we've done so, not so much to spite those who are our opponents, and sometimes they see it as such. But we've done it because that's precisely how we have stuck to principle. For instance, as we went into the government of national unity, many of our comrades feared. They feared that we are going to be overridden, and some comrades feared that workers' rights are going to be reversed, and they feared that without an overall majority, that we would not be able to take forward the programs of the National Democratic Revolution. And I often say to them, comrades, we have not gone back. In fact, those that we work with, we have at times taken them along with us. Taken them along with us, people thought that, no, the Bella Act is not going to be signed into law. We signed it into law. They thought that the NHI is now going to be dumped. The NHI is going to be implemented. And they thought that even the land issue is now going to be made history. We are proceeding with it. And in fact, the interesting part of it all is that, you know, even those who are, for instance, in the DA, they are the ones who come to me and said, Mr. President, we met with the American embassy officials and we explained the Expropriation Act to them and we made them understand that it is not what they think it is. and they have written papers to show that the Expropriation Act actually is a process through which there can be equity in the country. Then I go to China with Minister Steenhuisen. Minister Steenhuisen gets to China for the very first time. Very first time. Open his eyes. How come? Is China like this? And he sees incredible advancement. Before that, having believed that, there are two Chinas. And he immediately says, I can now say the one China policy which the ANC has been pursuing is the correct one. And he says it on the spot. So we have, out of that setback, been able to draw victory from that defeat. So Comrade Zamani's friend from China has been absolutely correct. We've had a setback, but we are able to work with that setback. It's what you make lemonade out of the lemons that life has given you. You make lemonade and you make it sweeter. And of course, our NEC still has to discuss the current machinations of our Government of National Unity partners. We still need to discuss precisely the way they've gone about either behaving themselves, deporting themselves when we have needed to have proper cooperation going forward. So the NEC is going to discuss that. They have asked me, now what is the future for the GNU? I said, the NEC is going to do precisely what Comrade Zamani has been saying. Sit down properly, have a thorough discussion, and take into account everything that needs to be properly discussed with a view of deciding a way forward. Right now, the budget is going to be resubmitted, budget 3.0, and when it is submitted, we will see how the adoption of that budget is taken forward and whether there is the stability that we want is confirmed or not. So comrades, all these, whatever we may have perceived as setbacks, has required that we understand the nature of the changed conditions and that we adopt approaches that will maintain the momentum of fundamental economic, political, and social change in our country. We therefore have had to take into account the issues, the dynamics that contribute to the moment that we are in now. As the ANC, we have the responsibility to carry the hopes and aspirations of our people, and especially in this trying moment. As the results came out, what we did know was that we've got to give leadership. Even at a moment when our hand was weak, we knew that the whole country relied and depended on the ANC giving leadership. And so we know our own history. The ANC has always given leadership to the future trajectory of this country. First, when the ANC was formed in 1912, that was an act of leadership, where our forebears brought all our various national groups together and said, let us fight, let us form an organization that will fight for our liberation. Even during difficult times, as the world went to Second World War, it was the ANC that came up with the African Claims, a document that began to chart the way forward of what future we should envisage. And when the ANC adopted the Freedom Charter 70 years ago, it was also giving leadership to where this country should be going. And even as the ANC resorted to the armed struggle, it was giving leadership. And when it said we should have negotiations, it was that leadership process that the ANC was providing. I've just marked a few key markers in our history. And so therefore, even last year, when we faced the setback that we did, it was the ANC that needed to give leadership. And how did we do that? We are the ones who invited all the other parties. We invited them and said, let us give expression to the wish of the people, because the people of our country did not give a single party the majority vote. So in the aftermath of the election, we agreed that the ANC should give that leadership to take the country forward by doing what, as I said, inviting all parties who would subscribe to the principles and transformative minimum program to form a government, and that is what we set out in the statement of intent. And that was the best way to move forward, to form a government that is stable, that is effective, and that is able to advance the interests of our people as a whole. Now, some within our ranks believe it was impossible to forge a progressive path within a GNU which is comprised by all these parties, and where we have both organizational as well as ideological differences. Yet we must recognize the reality that the tactical approaches that were available to us were limited. And having accepted that, we needed to take this country forward. And we therefore need to make use of the fact that the principles and minimum programs contained in the statement of intent that underpins the GNU does indeed provide a basis for far-reaching social and economic transformation. And we must use the lessons that we have learned from the experience that we have now been going through to inform our conduct in the movement and in the government as we move forward. Because it's important that we need to be clear on what the lessons that we are learning from this are all about. And Comrade Zamani also says, we defeated apartheid, and correctly so. We defeated apartheid through the raw energy and power of the people. And now that we are in government, we have substituted that with being a state power or being in government. Quite a lot of truth in that. And we need to analyze how, in the end, we interface with our people and how we utilize this enormous power that our people have to recalibrate precisely the relationship that a government that is in power and an organization such as the ANC needs to relate to one another. And I'll come back to that. But we also need to be aware of a number of issues. Right now, we are, as a movement, under a lot of attack. We are under a lot of attack, not only in the country, but outside of the country as well. As you well know, as you will have heard, and as we have to take a number of interventions to deal with that. And there are various other aspects which we need to look at. For instance, there are mobilization processes that are based on narrow ethnic identities that are contributing to the growth of a number of parties that are seemingly making inroads in the support base of a number of people or parties, and where, for instance, we see our own fortunes as a party beginning to go down because the ethno-nationalism, and which is also very prevalent here in the Northern Cape is gaining ascendancy. We need, as the movement, to address that. Another element, of course, contributing to our, say, electoral decline remains the poor performance of our economy. The economy has not been performing well, and people often ask themselves, why should I vote when my economic situation are so bad? Why should I vote when I'm unemployed? Why should I vote when I'm poor? We need to address that, and we'll address it in a little while. But the other one that has also contributed to our poor electoral returns is our own performance. Performance of the ANC itself. In some areas where we govern, we haven't done well. And ANC leadership, seated here and seated at national level, we must urgently attend to correct instances of poor performance because of either incompetence or mismanagement, even corruption, whenever these occur. And if we don't address this, comrades, we are in peril because our electoral fortunes will just keep going down. We cannot expect people to return us to power when we fail to attend to their basic needs, and for example, when we fail to attend to their needs either for water, where sewage is running through their streets, and where, for instance, we continue to see them living in real poverty. This is what our people expect us to address. An important element of giving effect to, say, the Freedom Charter's injunction that the people shall govern is giving South Africans a say in shaping the country that they want. Our people have become accustomed not only to participate in the voting process, they've become accustomed to vocalizing their concerns, and we need to give form, moment, and opportunity for that. And it is at local government level or at regional level that we need to do so. And failing to give our people that opportunity could lead and will lead indeed to weakening our electoral fortunes. Now, the forthcoming national dialogue will bring South Africans from all sectors of society to deliberate and to propose solutions to the most pressing challenges that are facing our country. Now, the NEC has decided that the ANC must take up its participation in the national dialogue process, which is going to be led by eminent people who are going to be announced soon, that we as the ANC must take it up with serious effect. And one says this advisedly, because sometimes the ANC tends to allow processes that affect the lives of our people to go on and not even participate. One comrade was telling me that the demarcation discussions that are going on now in a number of areas, and they were saying the ANC is absent in action. It is not there. And it is this process of demarcation that is going to determine precisely how the next electoral demarcation is going to take place. So I say this to you as leaders, that we need to be alert, we need to be aware of where we should fly the flag of the movement. So for instance, on the national dialogue issue, we need to be upfront, we need to be there, and articulating, of course, not only the principles of our movement, but also articulating the wishes and the aspirations of our people as a whole. So I raise this because, as I said earlier, the national dialogue process is going to be one major manifestation that is going to take place that we need to be participating in, but also leading in. So therefore, ANC leaders must enrich the content as well as processes of the national dialogue and ensure that it becomes a process that promotes socio-economic transformation of our society. It is at the national dialogue, for instance, where we are not only going to discuss issues that impact on economic growth, that impact on the social life of our people, but we're also going to discuss issues such as gender-based violence that continues to be rife in the country, and where ordinary people will be required to come together, NGOs, through various formations, churches, sports organizations, and it is there that the ANC's voice needs to be heard, because the ANC represents the voice of the community. So it is here, comrades, that you as a leadership will need to come to the fore so that we can share the wealth of knowledge that we have, that we were talking about earlier. Now, at a time of economic uncertainty, as well as upheaval and instability, the ANC leadership must work to bring about stability and certainty. Our duty is to bring hope. And I often say that as the ANC, we are merchants of hope. We are the ones who must bring hope and a belief in the future of our nation, and also the ability of our movement to be able to lead our people and our country to a better future. Now, the Northern Cape remains one of South Africa's poorer provinces, with both unemployment and the percentage of people living in poverty increasing on an ongoing basis. Now, this becomes our collective problem. It is not only Comrade Zamani's problem, it is not only Cyril Ramaphosa's problems, it is our collective problem. So you are the repository of the intellectual wealth of this province. You are the brains trust of the Northern Cape. You are the ones who must grapple with this issue and look at it very, very closely as a leadership, as you are being inducted as well. We need to say, what is it that we are going to do? But more properly, we need to look at what is it that holds the economic growth of this province back? And we must together sit down and talk about it. As with the rest of the country, youth unemployment is at an alarmingly high level. There must therefore be concerted efforts, as well as targeted interventions that need to be taken, identified and taken by the PEC. And these include making sure that we deal with the issues in a very practical way. For instance, how do we look at the productive sector in the province? How do we look at mining? How do we look at the issue of land and the mineral resources? And how do we look at how all that contributes to local development? So it must therefore link up with the question that I raised earlier about understanding the budget and how we utilize, yes, parts of the national budget as it comes as allocations, but also the provincial budgets. As leaders, comrades, we have the task of assuring our people of our ability to navigate these times of geopolitical tensions, and also being able to navigate the challenges that confront us when it comes to how we are going to deal with the difficulties in local government, the instability in many of our municipalities. And we must be open with our people about the risks as well as opportunities that we face, and be clear about the actions that we need to take in the face of all these challenges. Now, global realignments in the face of moves by some countries towards isolationism, protectionism, and unilateralism have and will continue to open new opportunities as well and possibilities. And South Africa must find a way of being able to navigate its way in all this. Now, of course, forging closer diplomatic and economic ties with various countries on our continent becomes the number one priority for us, in line with what our National Executive Committee decided should be our priorities, 6 priorities this year: a better Africa and a better world, and how we can raise our economic fortunes, but also how we can ensure that we improve relations with various sister countries on the continent and even beyond. Now, we will fail in these and many other tasks if the African National Congress itself, at all levels of its structures, at branch level, regional level, provincial level and national level, if we do not succeed, yes, in focusing on strengthening the ANC and rebuilding our movement. Now, our movement has made tremendous strides since the 54th conference in 2017, but there have been a number of setbacks along the way. Improvements that we have made include the work that is being done to deepen political education, as I said, and improving the quality of members and leaders of our movement. And I'd like to believe that you as leaders who are here, you are here because you've been recognized as leaders who have great quality, who have great knowledge, and you now need to live up to that wish or what recognition that members have in you. The ANC is also taking deliberate as well as incremental steps to hold leaders and public representatives accountable. For example, by implementing, and Comrade Phoebe will explain this in greater detail, the accountability framework. And we must be the only organization that I know of where we are now no longer talking about leaders being accountable, where we actually have set up a framework of ensuring that we are taken through the accountability process, where we now have to be accountable. And accountability will also mean that there will be consequence management. That if we fail to live up to what we are expected to live up to, there will be consequences. Because if you are told that this is your task, you must perform this task, you must therefore be able to account, what did I do to perform this task? And if you have failed for a whole range of reasons, you must know that there will be accountability. And this is now the milieu, this is now the phase that has now happened, that's evolving now in the African National Congress. We're no longer just theorizing about accountability, and as I said, if Comrade Phoebe is not going to deal with it, I direct her as the president that she must deal with it. This she must deal with. Now this must be linked more closely with an issue that I mentioned, consequence management, throughout our movement. Because, comrades, we need to move away from saying, if a comrade is asked to do something and if they haven't done it, it's okay. It's almost at your uncle's place. With your uncle, because your uncle is your mother's brother, anything goes. Anything can happen because of that bond of love between sister and brother is my uncle. So we now need to move beyond that and say we are now going to be focusing and monitoring exactly what we should do. We are slowly but surely also improving organizational discipline and look to leaders such as yourself to be exemplary in this regard. All of you will complete the compulsory course on ethics and integrity, but more than that, all of us are expected to lead in fostering a culture of ethics and integrity throughout our movement. As we said in the January 8th statement earlier this year, the ANC must be known for our excellence, for our humility, for our hard work, and for our competence. There's nothing as good as being known for being hard workers and being excellent and being competent at what we do. What this must also mean, comrades, is that when we appoint people, other people who should do work, we must move away from appointing incompetent people, people who don't know how to do the work that must be done. We must now tell ourselves that we are not going to appoint a comrade because he is a comrade or she's a comrade. We appoint them because they know what they should do. Like what Comrade Zamani said, he says, you know, Comrade Provincial Secretary knows the history of the 20th century. He may not know the 19th century, but that's what he knows, and we appoint him. If we have to appoint somebody for that, we say, you are our world's expert. It's almost like saying, comrades, and I want to imprint this in your head. When you appoint somebody, you must basically say, this person is our world's expert. Yeah. Nobody else can do this job better than this one, and appoint that person. And that other person who may not have been the best can go and do something else. So if we frame that in our heads, that we want the best of breed, we want the best to do the work, let's do so. Because, comrades, look at it. It's like, it's a marathon, or it's a Kaizer Chiefs Pirates match. Let's leave that. Let's leave that. Maybe it's to play in the World Cup. We're going to say, this is like saying we want to field the best players to go and represent the country in the World Cup. You can't go and appoint me to go and play forward in the World Cup, and you know I am going to fail. So you appoint me because I'm Cyril Ramaphosa and I've got the most handsome face? No. We've got to appoint people who know what they need to do. And this is where, comrades, sometimes we get it wrong. We get it wrong, and I'd like us to focus on this. Because we appoint people, and you must remember this is the work that we need to do, both in the organization and in government. We need, of course, every process needs people. And where we will win is where we get the right people to do the work. And this is the renewal process that the ANC must focus on, particularly in ensuring that we address the 6 priorities. The 6 priorities that we were given by our conference, in the January 8th statement, where we are required to demonstrate that the ANC is renewing itself. And we renew ourselves by having proper policies, proper systems, and the right people to do the work. And we also, this must then be extended to our local government. The local government sector is our weak underbelly. We're going to the local government elections next year. And comrades, let's face it, this is what often happens. We will elect people because so-and-so does not have a job, doesn't have a job, and has no clue whatsoever about what should happen in local government. And we just take that person, him or her, like you would take me to go and play in the World Cup team. When you know I am going to fail, and we know they are going to fail, but we still put them there. So what we now need to do is to say, we are actively going to look for the best amongst us to go and do the work. That's what we should do. And this is where, for instance, factionalism falls away. This is where favoritism falls away. This is where, for instance, whether one has a budget or not falls away. We focus on people who will do the work. We will have set up policies, we will have the system, and we will then know that this person who is the best amongst us is going to follow policy, is going to work within the system, and they are going to do the work as effectively as possible. So we need to do that. And of course, once they are there, they'll then be able to focus on our 3rd priority, actively making sure that, yes, we move towards inclusive growth. They understand precisely what the local development plan is, and also they will be able to ensure that we fight against the various ills in our society, and they build the South Africa that our people need and want. So it is heartening, therefore, to hear that here in the Northern Cape, that you have resolved to intensify the work of renewing the ANC structures from branch to provincial level, ensuring that every branch is functional, is dynamic, and is rooted in the communities that it serves. I am very pleased to hear that, because comrades, if we want to win the elections, we need to make sure that our branches are rooted in our communities. Without having a branch that is rooted in the communities, you can forget it. We will not win. And it is only through that we can succeed, because ANC branches must be the centers of community life and must be the first point of call for the communities. Each community must say, where is our ANC? And find the ANC. When there is trouble in the community, when a child has been raped, it is the ANC that people must rely on. It is the ANC to solve the problem. Taking us back to what Comrade Zamani said, it starts with the ANC. And we've made the mistake of substituting the ANC with government. And now we expect our people to run, to government first. And yet it is the ANC that should be the one that leads that process, that makes sure that government does its work. And when there is a school in the community, it is the ANC that must know what is happening in that school. When there are no teachers, it is the ANC. When the teachers or the principal is raping children in the school, it is the ANC that must attend to that problem. When there is crime in the community, it is the ANC that must address that problem and make sure that, yes, the police and the criminal justice system also is able to do its work without trying to do the work of the criminal justice system. So it is very important that we should do this. The NEC recently decided that every NEC member should be responsible for a branch or a number of branches, and this new PEC should also be adopting that. As the president of the ANC, I'm responsible for the life of my branch, but I'll also be responsible for the life of one or two other branches, to make sure that the branch immerses itself in the life of the community. So therefore yourselves, you must have branches that you are responsible for, not from a factional point of view, but from a functionality point of view. I know that some of you may be saying, hey, now I get a chance. I'm going to have my own branch and I'll influence it. Not for that. Now, the most immediate tasks that we must set ourselves to execute is to go out and reconnect our movement with our people. Our people are ever ready to be reconnected with our movement. And they wait for us as leaders to ignite that love affair that they have with our movement. And in being amongst our people, we must ensure that, once again, that we become the agent of change.